Hi everyone, so today I want to show you this card which I've called a 3D Panoramic Panel Tower Card. So it stands up like that, and it does stand up quite well. I did worry that it was going to fall back or fall forwards, or I mean left and right it's a bit wobbly, but obviously if it's just stood on the mantelpiece it actually stands quite well, and this isn't the most stable of surfaces, so I've been quite pleased with how much it stood up. So obviously I've just got a little happy birthday on the front and on the back. I've got a little space there for a message. The card that I used on this was 250 GSM. I wouldn't go much thicker than that because this is very thick and quite solid. By the time you've got all your panels and your layers, it's actually quite a solid card. I also wouldn't go too much more like flimsy either. I have made one out of I think it was a 180 GSM. And it stood up okay, but obviously it just is a bit more flimsy. So I would say anything between a 200 and a 250 is what you want to go for. But yeah, it's quite like it. This was actually come off the back of the request to do a panoramic panel card, which I made in the last video. And so I thought I would have a go with this one. I think it was the last video, but anyway, I definitely done it recently. But yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so for this card, you're going to need some base card. You need one piece that is 4.5 by 6, two pieces that are 4 by 4.5, and two pieces that are 2.5 by 4.5. We're going to go through the scoring in a minute. You'll also need a pattern piece, and it needs to be this way up. It feels like that's wrong, but it's actually right. And this pattern piece is 3 3/4 wide by 5 3/4 tall. Okay, so again, if you've got a scene, just make sure that your scene it's portrait rather than landscape. Okay, you'll see when we get, well, yeah, you'll have seen by the intro, but this is the right way around. And then you need some matte card. Now, when we did the panoramic panel card, we actually cut it out of a you know, like a rectangle, but because it's matte card, it doesn't really matter. So you just need to, what I did was I took an A4 piece of card, and then along the length I cut 7/8 of an inch strips, and then just cut them down to the right length, and then that way you maximize your card. So you need one piece that is 5 7/8 long by 7/8 wide. This one's 7/8 wide by 3 7/8, these two pieces. And then these two pieces are 7/8 wide by 2 3/8. Okay, so that's what you need for your mat. You also need a piece of mat for the back that is 4 3/4 by 2 1/4, and you're going to need another piece, a white piece, that will be 2 inches by 4.5, and that will go on top, and that's where you put your message. Okay, so let's get into the scoring. Okay, so starting with the largest piece, which is the 4.5 by 6. You want to put it in so you've got the 4.5 inch on the top, and you're going to score it at every inch. So you're going to score it at 1 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. Okay, so that's that one done. Then we're going to get the next biggest. This is the 4 by 4.5. So you put it in along the 4.5 inch length. Make sure it's not the 4 inch. Make sure it's definitely the 4.5. And you're going to do the same again. So 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch, and repeat that on the other piece as well. So next you take your 2.5 by 4.5, again along the 4.5 inch edge. You're going to score every inch, so at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch, and repeat that on the other piece. Okay, so once you've done all your folding, you then want to go and add red tape on all of your little 1/2 inch tabs. Okay, so everywhere that you've got a 1/2 inch tab, you need to add red tape. Okay, so you should end up with your all your pieces of card with red tape on them. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and just literally mount and fold all of your score lines. So I'm going to start with the biggest one. So I'm just going to do what we normally do, just fold 1/2 over, and then peel off your backing, and then fold the other panel over to meet it. So you just make a nice cube, and also then you know that it folds flat in that direction. If you try and go the other way, it might not fold, but you know it definitely folds flat in that direction. So just keep it in that direction, and then you know which way it wants to fold properly. Okay, then we're going to do the same with all of the others. So just fold one part over and then fold the other part over to meet it, and there you have your little box. And if I were you, I would try and keep them kind of all the same way round. So keep in mind all the same way around, so the tab is in the same place on all of them. Okay, so once you've stuck them all together, you should end up with 5 little separate pillars. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead now and stick the matte pieces onto the fronts of our pillars. Okay, now just make sure you know which is the front. I've sort of set mine out like that, so I'm going to make sure that I know all of these are the front. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've stuck all my matte pieces down. So now we need to go ahead and cut our pattern piece up. So I'm going to put these off to one side for a moment. Okay, so our pattern piece, what you need to do is you need to cut it up into, with it portrait, you need to cut it up into 3/4 inch strips and then lay it down on your desk. Okay, so as you can see, I've cut it into 3/4 of an inch strip. Right, so as we had with the panoramic panel card, it's the same thing. So I've got A, B and C. C needs to stay exactly as it is, and C will literally just stick straight on to your, so C stays as it is, C can literally stick straight onto your box, but we'll just leave it as it is. So let's go with, let's start from the outside. So A, both of these need 1 3/4 taken off the top and 1 3/4 taken off the bottom. So I've done those two. Now these two here, which is your B strips, these just need 1 inch taken off the top and 1 inch taken off the bottom on both of them. So then you should end up with that, hopefully. So now what we need to do is go ahead and stick those onto the front of our boxes. So you should end up with that. So then what you need to do is go ahead and stick all your boxes together. Now I would advise starting from the middle and then pushing that flat and then sticking this down so that obviously the pattern follows. Okay, so I'm going to use wet glue because it does give you a little bit more time to kind of get things into position, and you kind of need a bit of wiggle room with this. So I'm just going to lay this on like this. Just make sure it's nice and excuse any noise you can hear in the background, that's just my neighbour with her bins. So yeah, she's going to lay that on. Just lay that on. Now obviously this is wet glue, so I've got to be a bit careful and wait till that dries. But with wet glue at least as well, you can kind of get it in the right place and then just turn it so it's flat, and just make sure this whole panel is flat, because in a bit we want this back bit to be flat. We're going to be sticking a piece of card on there. So if you kind of do it like that, it's kind of the best way to do it. So I'm happy with that. So then we're going to go ahead and stick the next one on. Just lining it up, and I'm just sticking it down. And obviously with wet glue you get that time to kind of shimmy it, because I thought it was going to be lower than that, but actually when I stuck it, it wasn't lower than that. It's exactly there. So that's that one, and then we're going to do the same on this side. So I'm just going to open this up a little bit, put some glue on, and then shimmy it into position. And then last but not least, the last little one on the end. Now if you wanted to do more boxes, you could just stagger them a little bit more. The only thing is you're going to end up with a very, very big card. I did try one, and it ended up with like an 8-inch, 9-inch width footprint on it. So that's the only thing. The other thing as well to make, obviously when you're looking at marrying up your pattern, also just cast your eye across to the one on the other side, just so you know you're definitely level, because you might think, oh, that pattern's right, and then look across and be like, oh, actually no, it's not in line. So just keep an eye on that as well. Okay, so that's the main bit of our card done. So all we need to do now is add a section on the back where you can write. So I've got a plain piece which is 4.5 by 2, and a matte piece which is 4 3/4. So 2 inches by 4.5, 2 1/4 by 4 3/4. So I'm going to stick that onto there, and then I'm going to stamp a little greeting, and then I'm going to stick the whole thing on the back there. Okay, so I've stuck that down, and the front's done, so I just need to add a greeting on the front. Now it does stand up like that. It's not, I mean, actually I was surprised at how stable it was. I thought it would be less stable, but it is quite stable. If you're worried about it being stable, then all you need to do is stick a piece of 6x6 card on the back. Obviously it changes the look of it, but it just means you've got that extra stability. So that's a possibility, but yeah, that's how you do it. And then if you want to put an envelope, you just fold it all down to one side like that, and that's 6 inches and that's 6 inches, so it will fit in an envelope for a 6x6 card. Now I've used about 240, maybe 260 GSM cards, so it's quite a solid structure. So I'm going to go ahead now and add a greeting on the front. So I've gone ahead and die cut out a happy birthday. I put some double-sided tape on the back before I die cut. So now I'm going to take it all off and stick it onto the front of the card. Okay, so there's the finished card. Put a little foiled, well, mirror, isn't it? Mirror card. Happy birthday on the front, and on the back you got space then to write. And as I said, it folds flat for posting. And so yeah, so that's the card. So hopefully you like it. As I say, I use quite stiff cards, so I wouldn't go too stiff with it. It stands up nicely. I wouldn't go too stiff with it, and I wouldn't go too thin. I'd probably go around whatever this is. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll find out what it is and I'll put it up on the screen. But yeah, it's quite a nice card, a bit different, and it's that panoramic panel idea. So I hope you liked it. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Bye!